Hi, this is Stephanie Douglas, A View from Abroad, and this is the main podcast of Where's the Beef? And what I'll be talking about is the Accessibility Support Program, which is really the disability support program, but the failing in general of social services and housing, excuse me, to meet the needs of people in 2019, let alone people with mental health, chronic illness, and disabilities. This has been problematic from the very start. So, for me, this issue has been ongoing since, well, for the last 4.5, 5 years. So, over 4 years ago, I applied to the Disability Support Program. Even though it excluded people with mental health issues, I have complex post traumatic stress because I also have chronic physical issues. Ever since I almost died in 2014, those issues kind of that catastrophic um, failing of my immune system, the kidney shutdown, the pneumonia, the life support, triggered a whole host of physical issues and brought to the surface in no uncertain way my complex post-traumatic stress, which was I was originally diagnosed with in 2005 after working in child protection in the downtown Vancouver core, but continued on and worked in journalism in Alberta and BC and worked at ISENS, which used to be ISIS, which used to be MISA, the largest settlement organization in Atlantic Canada. But it wasn't until 2014, when I almost died, that the complex post traumatic stress was significant enough to affect working and daily life. So I applied to the Disability Support Program. So ever since I was released from the hospital, it has been a struggle um, because they released me with no housing and no um, medical support, nothing, no support, none, zero, zilch, bupkis. So I've been fighting for the bare things. Everything has been a fight to get every bare essential covered. So, in about 4.5 years ago, I applied to the Disability Support Program, which is this form. It's not a very good form. And this is the back of the form. Can you see that? So, the part that has um, this little box around it is the part that my doctor is supposed to fill out. So, Kim Flanagan, who was doing this that back then, sent me this form, and I took this form into my doctor, and my doctor filled it out. Again, see the form? This is the form. It is not a very good form. Filled it out, sent it in. No, actually, I filled it out, and my doctor faxed it from her office. So the months go by, the months go by, the months go by, and I finally contacted Jason McDonald and said, "What happened to my application to the Disability Support Program?" "I don't know. Let me see." And he looks through some papers and he finds this form. And he said, "Well, no one knew what to do with this form because it doesn't have a doctor's signature." And I go, "Is there a place on this for a doctor's signature? Like, this is what was sent to me in the mail by your office." And I was told to get my doctor to fill it out. Um, it says disability, diagnosis, date of diagnosis, comments optional, signature of applicant. That's it. And so he said, "Well, there's no doctors." So they didn't know what to do with this. I said, Your office designed this. How could they not know what to do with it? Anyway, so it was shelved and shelved and shelved and shelved and shelved and never dusted off, even though Pat McDonald said they were going to dust it off a number of times. It never got dusted off. So, no disability support program for Stephanie. Then they came out with the Accessibility Support Program because Wade McLaughlin lost the human rights complaint launched by Laura King's mother that um, it violated the Charter of Rights because it did not recognize mental health as a disability. Fast forward, and they created the Accessibility Support Program, which is insane and insanely useless. But it has a lot of staff. If you go to the government website and look at the directory, you can count all the staff that are in the program. Not only that, the conservative government has not only a minister, a deputy minister, they put in an assistant deputy minister, and then there's the director. And if any of you have ever looked at the accessibility and the income assistance rules, acts, and regulations, the director is the main person who makes decisions and is also able to make exceptions. That person is capable of making exceptions, of making decisions, of going outside of the rules as written given the circumstances. And currently that is Karen McCafferty, whatever. She has chosen not to do that on a continual basis. So the issue I've had is diet. And I have a long list of health issues: the complex post traumatic stress, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, um, hidradenitis suppurativa, also called acne inversa, which is a genetic skin issue, chronic skin issue, um, that creates huge boils and runnels under the skin. It's really horrible. Um, Arthritis, which I have osteo in my upper neck, my lower back, which has become worse. It's compressing, neuropathic pain down my leg. Um, I have arthritis in my um, hips, knees, shoulders, rib joints. I get cortisone shots in my hips. I just had 4 actually, to both my hips and my shoulders, and I'm due to get my facet joints done, which the needles are like this, literally. Um, but they help with the pain. I also arthritis, compromised kidneys from when I almost died, um, and I'm missing something. Oh, and recently a diagnosis of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which if I had been drinking tequila every day, I probably would never have gotten it. But I don't drink. Very, 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 very rarely. I have a bottle of sparkling wine that I was given for my birthday in January, which is still in the fridge. And all of these issues, all of these healthcare issues, are mitigated through diet. Now, weight loss is also a big one, but my doctor said, Stephanie, you have every mark against you, including medication that increases weight. So, what you need to do is be as active as possible and eat healthy. And the diet is, for all of these health care issues, the diet is not a poverty diet, which relies on potatoes, bread, pasta, more pasta. Rice is getting expensive, so bread and pasta and fillers. And I'm not allowed to eat any processed foods. So, the right diet for most people is fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, meat, lean meats, but fatty acids like fish and nuts and those kind of things. And yeah, a healthy diet. But because of the kidney issue, the liver issue, the liver can actually go into cirrhosis and liver transplant and blah, 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 blah. So it's not a good thing. And there is no pill to take for the liver disease. It's all about health. I'd love to lose weight. Trust me. I have a bikini just waiting in my closet. And as much as I walk and as much as I try to eat the right diet, medication is an issue in terms of maintaining weight. But I try to be healthy. So let's be very clear on what a single person gets on the Accessibility Support Program, the assured income for food money. So in the income assistance, it's $202 a month. On the assured income, it's $233, as far as I know. And for personal toiletries, I have it right here. Personal toiletries, personal items. So this was last revised in 2007. 2007. So this is for personal requirement, such as toiletries and grooming supplies. As you could see, a single adult gets $19 a month. I challenge anybody to go into the store in 2019 and get enough toiletries, the basics, and extra things if you're a woman and you need Vagisil. God help you, because it's phenomenally expensive. Or you need anyway, any extra toiletries. So we're talking about deodorant, shampoo, soap, hand soap, um, for $19. I would like you to get it for $19, all of it, and any other personal items you might need, like tissues, brush, any healthcare, any toiletries. So $19 a month is 2007 level. For food, it is $233 a month. So let's break that down. $233 a month averages out over 4 weeks to $58.25 a week for all your food, toilet paper. They have $15 in there somewhere else for cleaning supplies, which is not enough when one thing of cleaning supplies is about $4 to $5, even when you try to get it cheaper. Um, Mops, um, brooms, cloths, all that stuff. That's $15 a month, which over a year, if you need to replace anything, it doesn't come out to very much, even at the dollar store, which the dollar store is no longer really the dollar store because nothing is a dollar anymore. So $233 a month for food over 4 weeks is $58.25 a week. Which averages out to $7 a day. Now remember, when you have such little money, you don't have backup supplies. So every month you're down to zero. No oil, no butter, no flour, no sugar, all the basics. If it's a 5 week month, $233 is 48.50. 400 a week, 48.50 a week, which is 580 a day. So think about this. I would like any of you to sit down with the grocery list for the beginning of the week, and as a single person, assuming that you have zero in the house, but you have to eat a healthy diet. I want you to take 5825 or 4850 and see what you can get for your whole grocery list for that week. That includes toilet paper, coffee, all your foods, everything for a week. Let me know how you do. And if it's a 5 week month, because some months are 5 weeks before you get a check, it's $48.50, which is $5.80 a day. So I'd like you to plan 3 meals, small meals, of course, 3 very small meals, one based on $7 a day, and one based on $5.80 a day. And let me know how you do with that. So 4 years ago, I jumped through every single hoop they gave me. I had a doctor's note to increase my food allowance because of all my health issues. The kidneys, the high blood pressure, blah, blah, the arthritis, the skin conditions, those are like really the major ones. Um, and after jumping through all the hoops, so my doctor's note was not enough. Even though she's a doctor and she's my primary healthcare professional, her note to Jason McDonald, supervisor at 161 St. Peter's Road, was not enough. I was told, and actually I was told in a meeting in this very apartment with my daughter listening in from Lunenburg, that I needed to go see the provincial dietitian. I'm trying to keep a straight face. So the provincial dietitians on PEI, I don't know why they get paid or what they do. I went to her twice. I have more information about diet than she does because I used to work in mental health and I used to cook for people with mental health issues, and I've run group homes, and I know the Canada Food Guide and all its problems, both the old one and the new one. Um, so I went to her twice. However, the problem with the provincial dietitians is they do not make house calls. So what good is a dietitian who does not do house assessments? Because I can tell her anybody can tell them anything, and you're not believed anyway, regardless of what you tell them. And you're believed even less because they don't go to your home and take a look at what you actually have in your house for food. Whether you say you eat healthy and then have stacks of potato chips and, cookies and cakes and all sorts of shit like that. Stuff like that. They don't do an assessment. They don't do in-home assessment. So they made me go twice. And then they actually said, the provincial dietitian told me that income assistance was no longer taking any of their recommendations. Not surprising, considering that they don't do home assessments. However, they also did not take into account my doctor's note, which they made me get. So after all that hoop crawling on my belly, the increase in my food allowance was $27. That was 4 years ago. So everybody here, I'm assuming, when they go to the grocery store, realizes that food prices in the last 6-7 months have gone up 25 to 40%. And healthy fruit, has gone up from like the low end of apples and stuff like that, from $1.99 to $2.49, $2.69. So everything has gone up a lot. Beef, chicken, fish. Fish is something I'm supposed to eat. Very expensive. It's almost impossible to buy fish. All these things have gone up. So, and just to let you know, I want you to I want to bring this up also. So this is a draft page that um, is supposed to be a verification of disabilities. They have very narrow definitions, but it's supposed to go to my healthcare practitioner, um, which the Accessibility Support Program obviously never did because they've asked me for all sorts of um, information. Because I wrote a letter saying, look, I need an increase in my food allowance because of the liver and the other health issues. And so could you please increase it by $73, which would be a whopping $300 a month for not just all my food, but toilet paper, for everything. So all I've done for the past number of months, many, many months, is to call the supervisor at 161 St. Peter's Road, Jason McDonald, who knows me very, very well, and also knows every single one of my complex post-traumatic stress triggers and anxiety. And the biggest one is to simply ignore me for months. So I called, I asked for an appointment, with my supposed accessibility support worker. Um, I made calls, I wrote an email. I've never gotten an answer from him. And since he knows me so well and he knows all my health issues, I consider that intentional harm. I called Deborah Bradley because my worker and her supervisor, who is Michelle Coyle is doing the power play. No, 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 no. You need doctor's notes. Well, I have a doctor's note in my file. I sent a letter with each one of my healthcare issues and the associated diets, which are all the same. And they said, well, that's not enough. You need another doctor's note. And I said, well, there is a doctor's note. Well, you need a doctor's note for the liver. I'm going, all the other issues are still current. This is an added one, and the diet for all of them is the same. So I have a note on file. My doctor's very aware of this. Send this over to her and ask her to sign off on it. Or God forbid, walk across the damn parking lot to her office and get her to sign off on it. No, no, no. I talked to the director. So I've talked to everybody. I've sent them information. It's taken so much time for this, and it's all been no, that I don't qualify under the Income Assistance Act for a special diet. But I'm supposed to be on the Accessibility Support Program. Now, last August, I went through eight hours of intake with two different people. 8 hours of intake with two different people. And at the end of that, there's supposed to be a personalized program plan, which never quite happened. If I had to do 8 hours of intake with someone, they would have the most bang up, point by point, you know, personalized program plan, individualized personalized program plan, which I started doing in 1988 because I was working with people with severe disabilities, and each person had an individualized program plan that I reviewed every 3 months. And if something came out, I reviewed it sooner, made changes, talked to their caregivers. In this case, it would be talking to me directly. I even offered to write my own because they didn't seem to have a clue how to write one. And I still don't have anything in my hands that is a personalized program plan. So 8 hours of staff time at very high rates of pay, and they accomplish nothing. So nothing exists. So that's what's been going on. So months and months and months of saying, look, this is a health issue. Um, all my health issues require the same diet, period. And when you're not allowed to, especially for the liver, which could be deadly if not taken care of properly, it's a death sentence, basically. Um, and a huge healthcare cost if it goes into cirrhosis and blah, 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 all that stuff. And the need for a transplant. I'm 57 and a half. They'll probably say, let her die. So, diet is really essential for health. It's a very basic thing. Um, Food and housing, two very essential things which islanders aren't getting. In fact, government, the last government, and obviously this new government, um, housing, even though they keep going about people and we're going to deal with people, they've added more staff to the ministry level at, but $73 out of their $18 million budget for direct services is obviously too much. And the $18 million that they have for the 2019-2020 budget for just for the accessibility support program, that 18 million is only for direct services. So where is that $18 million going? There's no accountability and there's no breakdown, and there's nowhere where it says in the budget where that money goes or how that money is allocated or how many people are in the accessibility support program. I'm betting everything I have, which isn't much, that that if everybody who's on the accessibility support program, that $18 million divided into them annually, we would live like kings and queens, and our families would be right up there in the social class. So the amount of staff for the accessibility program is phenomenal. The And remember, this is just the staff. And when they get their salaries, they get their salaries. They get vacation pay. They get long-term medical, extended medical and dental. They get their RSPs. Um, they're not hurting. Believe me, they're not living off $233 a month for groceries. They wouldn't know how. Every one of them should have to, from the minister right down to the income assistant worker and accessibility support workers, should have to try and make ends meet with $7 a day for all their meals. They should have to. They should know what that is. They should understand that. But this conservative government has gone one step farther than even Wade McLaughlin. He's added an assistant deputy minister. So I haven't heard back from the minister. I haven't heard from the deputy minister. The assistant deputy minister, Deborah Bradley, said, "Thank you for sharing your story," when I talked to her. And that was the second time I talked to her, which, as soon as a politician says that, you know that it's gone in one ear, out the other, and they're not going to do anything about it at all. And Karen McCaffrey, well, I finally wrote a letter to my doctor for her. Because all this information, she sent me a special form that I would have had to print out, take a cab to my doctor's to get it filled out, and take a cab home, which is an added expense because they're paid for by social assistance, accessibility. Nobody knows what program, for medical cabs. Um, and all she needed to do was to take the original letter with all my health issues and ask my doctor to sign off on it. Because all this information, everything, is in my file. But nobody has read the file, or knows the file, or knows all the doctor's notes, because they're all there. I'm going to have to ask her to see my file. That's my next step. And if they don't give it to me, I'll just do a FOIP for my file. Because all the information in my file is information that I am allowed to see, just like my medical file. So finally, when she sent me that, I said, this is ridiculous. My doctor's fully aware of these issues because she's already sent a note. I don't need to ask her for another permission. And this form with the Accessibility Support Program is a form that goes directly to my doctor to sign off on. So the doctor is already aware that they're sharing information with the Accessibility Support Program, but the Accessibility Support Program doesn't even know their own forms and probably never filled it out and never sent it, so never got it back. So 8 hours of intake detailing all my healthcare issues, right down to the tiniest one. Who knows where that information is, because it sure isn't being used in making decisions. So I wrote a letter for Karen McCaffrey to fax to my doctor to get her to sign off on it. I also called my doctor. Now, this is unfortunate because our doctors don't have a lot of time. So I've called again to my doctor's office to ask her to please refax a note to the Accessibility Support Program. And who knows where those notes go, because they don't recognize their own forms. They don't recognize where things are coming from. So who knows if they even go into the file. But that's a lot of money and time for my doctor to do this kind of work instead of seeing patients, which are more important, when this information is already in a file and already recorded. But what is really important about all of this is that, yes, I'm fighting for $73 extra. But every person out there who is trying to survive on this money, who has health issues, who don't know that they can ask for increased money, and then when they're told no, if they do ask, they don't know how to go through the hoops. They don't have the policies. They don't have the acts. They don't have any of the information. And none of the workers show them the policies. In fact, I've had people tell me that their workers said they weren't allowed to show them the policies. The reality is that I'm just getting this. This is the income assistant policies. I have read them. This is the Accessibility Support Program, and some of these policies are so old. The one for $19 for all your toiletries was revived in November 2007. 2007. It's 2019. So most of these policies are so old, and the revisions are old, and even the new some of them have been revised in 2017, but they didn't actually change anything from 1996. For example, clothing. Clothing, you're allowed $24 a month for clothing. Think about what that is a year. That is based on the original $24, which hasn't changed since 1996, is based on 1996 cost of Value Village. That's what I was told by an insider who works in income assistance. $24 a month, the aggregate for a year, but $24 a month is based on, and that's for, underwear, socks, pants, sweaters, jackets, boots for the whole year. But then there's summer stuff. And then there's women with bigger breasts like me who can't just buy a bra and wouldn't from Value Village because, and Sears bras are not effective. We need real bras for real bigger women. And they're $50. Unless you're lucky and you get them on sale for 25, and then after that there's tax. But that's your whole month's budget. So where do you get your underwear? Anyway, just calculate $24 a month for 12 months for all your clothing needs, from underwear to socks to winter jackets to summer clothes to shoes if your shoes are worn out. See how far that gets you. You maybe get 4 pieces of clothes. Even at Value Village, you might get a little bit more, but not much because their prices have gone up a lot. So, essentially, this whole thing, this runaround for the last 4 or 5 months, the level of unprofessionalism from Jason McDonald and Pat McDonald and Deborah Bradley, and especially the director, Karen McCaffrey, and Michelle Coyle, who has been doing a power play which I will not play. And that is, she will go through my support worker to say no, 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 but she wants me to call her directly so she can tell me no. And when I worked in mental health, I used to see those power plays all the time with my clients, and I would go in as a worker, and they wouldn't do that. But here on PEI, there is no worker, and the workers do not do that for you. In fact, in the years since I've been on the Accessibility Support Program, my worker has never checked in with me to say, are you okay? How are you doing? Let's have coffee. Are there any concerns? They should have those 8 hours of intake. And I did go in and talk to her very in depth about some of my issues, but she still doesn't know me. But they should have those 8 hours of intake and all the doctor's notes, the hospitalizations, the medical reports on my file, which nobody seems to know what my file says. So, what is tragic are the people who are terrified. They're afraid of asking, and they're afraid of then saying, well, you know what? That's an unacceptable answer given that this program is supposed to meet the needs of people with mental health and disabilities and chronic illnesses. And you don't know where my file is. You don't know what's in my file. You don't know what's already been done. You don't have anything drawn up from the 8 hours of intake where all this was gone through in great detail, and where's the individualized, personalized program plan that should be reviewed every few months. People don't know these things. They don't know how to ask. It's only because I've sat on the other side of the desk that I know that I can ask. But I also know from all these acts and regulations that the director is the one with the power to make decisions. But this has been going back and forth between all these people for months. There is not one thing I've asked for in the last 4.5, 5 years since I got out of the hospital in 2014. So that's 6 years. There is not one thing. Oh, actually, I lied. There's maybe a couple. That I haven't had to write extensive letters about, send them to my MLA, send them to the media, not that the media gives a crap, because we're not important. And they don't know the files, and they don't know the wages, and they don't know how much money they get the budget in the legislature, but they see the budget, but they don't think of it in terms of human beings. Like, what does this mean to human beings? What does this mean to people? So I'd like to know. So 20 million is in the budget for staff, and that includes 11 million that goes to community groups, nonprofit organizations for programming and staff. But that $20 million does not include the minister, the deputy minister, the assistant deputy minister, the director, the communication person they have, the administrative assistants at the minister's office, the media liaison person, the policy analyst. Doesn't include facilities, which means the structures, the utilities, janitorial services. Um, doesn't include any of that. So that $20 million is actually far, far, far higher. What I would like to know is, where is the $18 million that is allocated for people like me, people on the Accessibility Support Program? Where is that going? And how is that being allocated? Because there's nothing in the budget on that. I have the budget. I've read the budget. It's depressing. Because you see all the money and you go, where the hell is it going? Because it's not going to the people. Because if it was going to the people, people would not be suffering. And there's a lot of suffering on PEI right now. The Liberal governments and the city of Charlottetown have created a lot of suffering. And the housing costs, which they allow to happen through greed, is a very, very significant reason why food costs on PI have gone up. Not to mention the fact that we have pretty much a biopoly. I can't say the word. Super Loblaws and Sobeys pretty much own all the grocery stores. So our prices are high, and climate change has affected prices. Prices are high. So this is the issue of the Accessibility Support Program, which doesn't exist in law. So all these little people scrambling around who say they're a part of the Accessibility Support Program or the Disability Support Program, because if you look on the government webpage, most of them, it says Disability Support. They're getting paid a lot of money, but what are they doing? I did say that after writing the letter for Karen McCafferty, I can't remember which is her last name, but that I was going to send the minister a bill for my time. Because when I work, when I'm able to work, if I can find work that I'm able to do, especially as a consultant, I charge and have charged $125 an hour. So I figured just on dealing with them and writing the letter and making the phone calls and reading the files and making recommendations, because the accessibility program is so poorly designed, I made recommendations when I had 8 hours of intake with 2 different people that it could have been streamlined with one person doing the intake at one point. They wanted me to go through a third interview, and I went, no way. It's like, you've already spent too much money like doing two different people 8 hours. If you don't have enough information out of 8 hours of intake, you don't know your job. And actually, um, I offered to do some mental health and cross cultural communication training with them, and Deborah Bradley told me that all the staff were going through mental health training. Well, Jason McDonald, Pat McDonald, Deborah Bradley, Michelle Coyle, Karen. Obviously, your mental health training person has not gotten through to you, and they must not be very good, because how you deal with people with mental health issues and complex post traumatic stress is so humiliating, which the Accessibility Support Program says the mandate is to treat people with dignity and respect, which I haven't experienced yet. The being treated with dignity and respect. What people don't realize is that when you're in poverty and when you're begging for basics and when you don't have a lot of information and when you have low self-esteem and when your every day is a struggle just to exist, that when you deal with people like this, a lot of people get hospitalized or they commit suicide. Now, I know this as a fact that suicides on PI have increased, and I am 99.999% certain that suicide among people on income assistance and the Accessibility Support Program has probably increased since 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Those stats would be interesting. Nobody's given me those stats. I have asked. But I have told them that every suicide and every hospitalization, because the people are pushed to the edge trying to deal with their bureaucracy and their insensitivity and their lack of compassion and awareness, um, these people are directly responsible for every suicide and every hospitalization. Because when you work with people who are traumatized and humiliated and victimized by a system that treats them as worthless, as disposable, as non important, as not even important enough to call back, people who are already struggling on money that doesn't go far enough just to get basic food items, they give up. I'm a grumpy old broad. I don't give up. I just the more people try and hurt me or humiliate me, the more I just dig in my feet and go, how do I deal with this? How do I bring awareness? How do I let the community know that this is an issue and that it's really up to the community to speak up? Because those of us who have the issue, um, we're not listened to when we speak up. And most people think, oh, people on income assistance are living high on the hog. Well, we're living so high on the hog, I'd like you to try living high on the hog with us. And as a single person with no help, no credit card, no extra money, and from zero in your kitchen, I want you to survive for at least a couple of months on a budget of $333 for all your needs, except for the $19 for your toiletries. And I want to see how far you get and how healthy you are at the end of 2 months. So the issue is I've asked for $73 for diet, which because of my liver, I've had to stop taking certain medications, like for my skin condition. Um, I've been told no, 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 and actually every single solitary thing I've asked for, except for one or two exceptions, has been a issue and a fight and lots of staff hours, which would have paid for the issue in the first place. And until this year, has affected my mental health so badly that last year, well, actually just last December, which is only 7 months, 8 months ago, I told the then director that, they were pushing me to the edge of suicide. It was so, the insanity of dealing with them triggered triggered all my anxiety, all my panic, and definitely my complex post traumatic stress to make me feel on the edge of suicide, to feel suicidal. And then I went, I'm not going to allow that power over me. So I'm angry because I'm having to deal with this. I'm angry that there's so many people out there suffering and are too afraid to speak up. And I'm angry that people are dying because of other people's insensitivity, lack of respect. And they put people through the most amazing amount of belly crawling and humiliation just to eat healthy, just to live. So every meal you eat, I want you to think of, how high on the hog is my next door neighbor living? So this is the issue. None of these, like the Income Assistance Act, is so. None of the amendments and the Accessibility Support Program, um, which doesn't exist, and which the our minority conservative government has decided to pad even more by hiring an assistant. So we have a minister and we have a deputy minister. What does the assistant deputy minister do, and what is the director doing? Because she's not doing. So, what are all these people and all the other supervisors and coordinators and the Michelle Coyles and the Jason? What are they doing? And the Pat McDonald, people who know me really well and know my issues, and they're silent and unprofessional in their silence. What are they doing? And do they realize that people are dying because of them? Except for me. Because the more I get pushed, the more I go, how do I become stronger? How do I regain my resilience? How do I fight for myself, but at the same time make very sure that this isn't just about me, this is about everyone else as well who is dealing with these issues, who don't have a voice or don't feel that they have a voice or are too afraid to use their voice. And it's up to all of us to make our government accountable. And the only way we can do that is by getting them to reinstitute an ombudsman, because there is no oversight. And the government providing its own oversight is a corrupt government. So we need to change this. And we need to have accountability. And we need to have an advocacy office on PEI again and an ombudsman office on PEI again, so that people like me, and even more so, other people who don't feel that they have any power and any voice, have someone to speak for them, because there's no one to speak for us but ourselves. That's like asking a rape victim to advocate with their rapist. For restitution or for accountability. That's what it's like. It's a victimization by a system. At every time you have to ask and then fight for every tiny basic thing. It's basically just people with power victimizing people without power. This is Stephanie Douglas, A View from Abroad. I hope you've listened to all of this.